Memories of Murder ends without revealing the killer. So if this is not about solving the mystery, then what's the story really about? The filmmaker has said he wanted to portray the chaos of South Korea in the 80s and how incompetent the police were. But I think there's another aspect here. Something the story keeps reminding us of, which is that truth can be elusive. And what does that mean? It means any real discoveries continually evade the policeman. Their approach is often flawed, but an absolute objective truth can be hard to find, and sometimes life just refuses to leave you with clear answers. So how does the film communicate this theme? There are clues in how the case changes the policeman, so let's take a look at what happens to them. We'll nickname this inspector the Shaman. Early on he talks about himself this way. He claims to be able to tell if someone is guilty or not just by looking at them. He's got the same approach throughout most of the film.
이거 진짜 죄가 없어? 어? 내 눈 똑바로 봐봐.
His partner, though, has a different method. We'll call him the kicker, and I'm tempted to think his haircut is inspired by Bruce Lee. He hopes to beat the truth out of the suspects, but that results in false confessions. He even suppresses street protests with kicking too. Although the kicker remains the main culprit, the Shaman is not shy of violence either. This is how he greets their new partner early on. The inspector from Seoul has a third, more rational approach. He thinks paper trails, reason, and the proper collection of evidence will lead them to the killer. This here is his mantra. Let's name him the scientist. The exchange here points to the differences. Then look at how the Shaman struggles when he's within the realm of the scientist.
그 양일간에 12시 12월 16일 그 12시에
Throughout the first act of the film, the investigation is an absolute mess. Evidence is lost and forged, and confessions are extracted through torture. The scientist is not impressed by his colleagues, so when the killer strikes again, he takes over. But despite his efforts, evidence has washed away.
피해자 우산에서 범인 지문이 나올까 싶었는데 결국 안 나왔습니다.
그나마 그 발자국도 빗물에 뭉개져가지고 족적 판명이 정확하게 잘 안 돼요. 현장 버전 이빠이 해봐야 어차피 나오는 거 하나도 없네.
Again, truth has evaded them. Later, a far-out theory is cooked up by the Shaman in the absence of evidence.
현장에 흘릴 털기 같은 게 애초부터 없는 놈이다 이거지.
예를 들면 말이죠. 죽놈이 거기에 털을 밀어버렸다. 완전히 완벽한 거지.
It lets him keep using his eyes. But it's Officer Kwan who moves the story forward. She's found out that the song Sad Letter has been playing on radio every night there's been a murder.
이렇게 자세히 보시면 이 노래 방송된 날짜거든요.
Look at how her input is received.
Nice! Good idea!
Since it's a paper trail, the Shaman mocks her while the scientist is immediately drawn in.
우연 측은 너무 정확한데 여기 소리 보세요. 선임 절대 거짓말 안 하거든요.
By the end of the film, it's unclear if the postcards even came from the killer, but they were so desperate for clues, they assumed a connection. In this scene, he seeks help from an actual shaman, but she refuses to even look at the suspects.
어디서 작것들 사진을 들미라.
So instead, she sells him this charm.
이걸 이렇게 잘 말리면은 이 얼룩얼룩한 게 범인의 얼굴 형상이 돼서 나타난다 이 말씀이야. 말도 안 돼요. 이게 무슨...
Back on the crime scene, another coincidence leads the policeman astray. A random stoneworker visits the scene. He flees into a quarry to hide. Here, the shaman tries to fool everyone. He's seen the stoneworker's red underwear, but lines up a group of suspects regardless.
내 눈을 똑바로 보실까? 어?
It allows him to pretend his magic shaman eyes have helped him.
그래도 내 눈가는 못 속여요. 딱 보면 티가 나.
And soon, they fall back on torture to find the truth.
조병순, 당신 범인이야?
예.
웃기지 마, 당신은 범인 아니야.
When they find another body, still no closer to the killer, the shaman begins to question himself for the first time.
그래, 네 말이 맞다. 뭐가? 저 같은 이런 놈들하고 쓸데없는 짓을 했어.
Look at how different he seems in the final act. His approach is more in alignment with the scientist here. He even tries to stop his colleague from kicking. But unlike the shaman, he's not changing, and the kicking seems to be spreading too. For the scientist, however, that is change. Notice how this is a complete role reversal.
그렇다고 증거가 있나? 뭐 있어야 뭘 하지, 씨발. 목격자는 놔버리고 씨발 다 필요 없어. 박경규 그 새끼를 죽도록 도둑을 패는 거야, 씨. 나 많이 변했다.
Soon, a fight breaks out, and the kicker's leg, his truth tool if you will, becomes infected.
다리를 잘라야 된다고요? 에? 설명 또 해줄까?
It's the cost of refusing to change. When the final body is found, the scientist has lost all belief in collecting evidence. The rain might destroy it anyway, so what's the point?
뭐야? 당신 뭐야? 뭔데 그 사찰을 만지고 그래?
Instead, he tries to kick their suspect to confession. It's telling that it's the shaman who's arriving with the DNA results at the end. And it's worth pointing out how the results are in alignment with the film's theme here. The test is inconclusive. It doesn't even give us a definite no. The scientist suffers cognitive dissonance, refusing to believe his document. And the shaman can no longer trust his vision either. Staring down the suspect gives inconclusive results as well. Eventually, the suspect is released and the case remains unresolved. Fast forward a decade, and the shaman has a new job. Note the glasses, as if he's accepted that his eyesight wasn't all that. He thinks it works on his son though. But maybe it's just foreshadowing. Because the final scene implies there really is something special about his eyes, if you take an outside view of the film. In the much talked about epilogue, the shaman's vision is given a victory of sorts. In my view, the final shot is one of the most powerful in film history. But first, let's listen to how the girl he meets describes the person we're tempted to think is the killer.
어떻게 생겼어?
뻔한 얼굴인데?
어떻게?
그냥 평범해요.
Just like the DNA results, her description gives him absolutely nothing to go by. But thanks to how the character is written, the final shot still becomes pregnant with meaning. It achieves something only film can do. Throughout, he's repeatedly said he can look at a person and know if he's guilty or not. And at the time of release, the murder case that inspired the film hadn't been solved. So the filmmaker knows the perpetrator might be out there. Maybe he's even watching the film. But why does the shaman turn to camera, staring at us? Is he trying to look directly at the killer in case he's watching? If so, what's that communicating? Here's what I think. I think it's saying, to all the people watching, I'm watching you too, and in this moment where you see these shaman eyes, there's one of you right now who knows for sure that you're guilty, and that's the truth.